Hi guys, it's Christina. Today I'll be talking about strategy 3 of the 7 strategies of assessment, effective feedback. We'll begin with offering regular descriptive feedback. It's one of the most important things. It's during the learning, during practice. Students make mistakes and it's most effective if they're corrected and helped during the learning. Like a sports team, you don't give feedback after they've lost the game, but when they're doing the practice. If it's done well, they learn that effort equals success or leads to success, and they become deeper learners for it. Now, you have to be cautious about giving feedback that they don't think feedback equals improvement, that they have to put an effort, they have to put action into that improvement. And there's a couple of characteristics that go with that. It directs attention to the intended learning. It gives it occurs during the learning. It addresses partial understanding, to not think for the students and limit the correctives that you give. And yeah, starting from the beginning, giving attention to the intended learning. It has targeted features, processes, uses aspects that were achieved and how to improve from that. That they did well. Where do they go from that? And that's a part of success feedback that identifies, describes, and points out what worked well, what strategies or processes were done well. Success feedback, though, is not to be confused with praise because praise is unpredictable and can be counterproductive. And if they think that if teachers like I like that thing, it's pleasing the teacher, it does not equal quality though, but they may mistake it as such. So we need to give them things like next step feedback or interventional feedback, which identifies a correction and provides information for what they need to do next. So there's a couple of examples of next step feedback. Offering a reminder, making a specific suggestion, asking a question, building self-efficacy. You might say, oh, did you remember to do that paragraph that explains everything that you were doing, what they need to do next? Um, but you have to remember grades are not feedback. It doesn't give detail and it doesn't tell them where to go next. It's, if you can, save it for later, um, and feedback during the learning. If it's possible, use formative assessments so they learn that it's okay to make mistakes. They need to put effort and time into correcting those mistakes, and that's what counts. They won't get everything. They might have partial understanding. You have to review the formative assessments that you've given them and question yourself, did they just not get this part, or do they really just not understand anything I taught them, and do I need to reteach it? But you can't think for your students. You can't overdo it. If you're like, the answer is on page 12, paragraph 3 in this section, that's not helping them. That's thinking for them, and that doesn't help them grow at all. Um, every student's different. You can't overwhelm them with feedback, but you don't want to underestimate them either. Some kids will be like, "Yeah, I have all this time. I can do this," and other kids will be like, "I can't." It might be helpful if you give them pictures and symbol cues, stars and stairs. Stars, what I did well, what I can do next. It's a type of next step feedback. There's also codes, and it gives directions, also another type of next step feedback, but it would be like SP is spelling. It's just so you don't have to write out every single thing and they can think for themselves. Another type that I thought was really cool was the two-color highlight. You need a rubric or a dialogue, and you have a blue highlighter and they have a yellow one, and if they got something you completely agree, it's green. It mixes together. Another type of feedback would be a 3-minute conference. You'll need a rubric or an assessment dialogue form, and they talk about their opinion and what they did well, and then you give your feedback of what you think they did well and what are areas of improvement that they may need. But if you don't have time for all of that, you might want to do peer review. It helps close the gap between high achieving and low achieving students. It gives the students an understanding of what everybody else is doing, and it gives diversity in the class if you have a larger group. But in conclusion, its feedback is to create lifelong learners that want to improve. They have to keep moving forward and looking forward and how they can improve and what is good for them. Thanks.